Disappearing is not unique to the average citizen, and on occasion our favorite celebrities and well-known artists disappear. Occasionally they'll turn up again with no explanation as to what happened, or they remain missing, never to be seen again. Number 10. Margot Kidder, the second of 5 siblings, was born in a place called Yellowknife, the capital of the Canadian Northwest Territories. She was raised in various other small towns and idolized her father, Kendall, a mining engineer. Her mother, Jill, was a school teacher who taught her daughters never to depend on any man and always do their own work. In 11 years, she would attend 12 schools and was never in one place long enough to make a close friend. Kidder would write in her diaries, planning to escape from loneliness, but little did she know that she would become an aspiring actress later on in her life. The woman is recognized as the star Lois Lane in the 1979 Superman, and also found herself starring in the Amityville Horror that same year. No one expected that the then 47-year-old would disappear in 1996. It was that year that she'd been living in Livingston and was in Los Angeles on business. It was April, and Kidder was last seen at the airport on a Saturday night, where she waited for a flight to Phoenix. But the actress would never arrive in Phoenix, and an associate reported her missing the following day. A producer of plays called the Theater Guild stated that Kidder was due to teach an acting class in Thatcher, Arizona that Monday as well, which she wouldn't attend. During an investigation, no evidence of foul play was found, and there was no sign as to the actress's whereabouts. 3 days after Margot Kidder was reported missing, she mysteriously turned up behind a suburban house in the Glendale neighborhood. The star was found by homeowners in the bushes, dirty, scared, and paranoid. She was dazed when discovered in the backyard foliage and claimed to have been stalked and assaulted by unknown forces. The residents initially thought that the woman was homeless. Sergeant Rick Young reported that Kidder seemingly cut her hair using a razor blade to alter the way she looked and was wearing disheveled clothing. When asked who was following her, she simply wouldn't answer. Investigators claimed that there was no evidence of an assault, but her appearance said otherwise. Kidder was covered in scratches and bruises and lost a dental plate during her disappearance. The missing dental plate also led to rumors saying that the woman's teeth had been knocked out. Officers claimed that the marks on her body were from creeping around in the bushes. They also found no evidence of narcotics or alcohol in Kidder's system, and she was sent to the Olive View Medical Center for observation. Investigators involved in this missing person case remained puzzled by the bizarre behavior after narcotics were ruled out. Later articles would point out the actress's struggles, starting with her neck injury. In 1990, Kidder had been involved in an accident that resulted in persistent pain, and she would occasionally require a wheelchair. She also told one magazine that she needed pain tablets and claimed that they left her mind a bit muddy. Surgery corrected the ailment later on, but Kidder's insurance company refused to pay for the bills, leaving her bankrupt. After recovering further at the hospital following her 3-day disappearance, the actress believed that she'd been feeling a bit paranoid. She believed the CIA was out to get her. Beyond this, nothing further is known of the mysterious and strange disappearance. Number 9. Chinese history holds a variety of mysteries, such as that of Emperor Jean Wen, who was born in 1377. His reign started in 1398 at the age of 21 until 1402, a period that would almost destroy an entire dynasty. Upon his nomination as emperor, Jean Wen sought to continue the efforts of his predecessor, which was to erase the Mongol legacy of the Yuan dynasty. He wanted to encourage a culture of intellectual and technological advancements, but he would meet his downfall after trying to reassert control over princedoms in areas ruled by his uncles. The effort inevitably provoked a rebellion led by the Prince of Yan, his uncle Zhu Di. His troops stormed the capital in 1402 and overwhelmed the empire. The palace was set alight, and Jean Wen, defeated, disappeared. It was presumed that he succumbed to the fires, but this isn't what happened. According to the stories, the man survived the attack, fled, and lived for another 40 years as a wandering monk. Claims were made that charred remains were discovered, but this was not an accepted allegation among the locals. Jean Wen became known as Monk Ying Wen, according to the monk story,
but this is different from the explanations given as the former emperor's whereabouts. It's believed that Emperor Yongle sent Zheng He and Hu Ying to look for Jean Wen. Supporting evidence for this can be found in the historical record, which shows that Emperor Yongle sponsored the voyages. Yongle had wasted Zhang looking for the missing man, who he thought had escaped and was living somewhere else. Other accusations stated that Jean Wen returned to the palace sometime later, where he lived in obscure retirement. Another theory posits that the emperor was placed under something akin to house arrest in Nanjing, where he would remain until his passing. It's also speculated that he fled to Yunnan, with another theory claiming his exile. None such speculations have ever been confirmed, and Emperor Jean Wen's hiding place remains an enduring mystery. In modern times, scholars have produced some alternative solutions, such as the emperor may have been hidden within the ancient temple of the Fujian province. The style of the temple is similar to that of the palace in which Jean Wen resided. There are also some supposed indications of his identity there, but this idea has yet to be openly accepted, leaving the disappearance as an unsolved and mysterious case. Number 8. We all know the story of the American socialite Dorothy Arnolds, who enigmatically vanished. Despite theories and supposed sightings of the heiress, her fate remains unknown. This missing person case is similar to another American socialite, Theodosia Burr Alston. Theodosia was the only surviving daughter out of the 5 children of Vice President Aaron Burr and Theodosia Bartow, born in 1783 in Albany, New York. She would go on to have a fantastic education, which was a bit unusual for women during this era. Theodosia was Aaron Burr's 3rd daughter and the apple of his eye, which is why her disappearance came as such a heartbreaking event to him. Her tragic story is mostly forgotten about today and overshadowed by stories like Dorothy Arnold's. But the story starts with a duel in 1804. While Aaron was largely successful in his career, this came to an end when he butted heads with his political rival, Alexander Hamilton. The two nursed a hatred for one another, and when Hamilton spread some uncanny rumors about the vice president's daughter, that hatred swelled to crescendos. Aaron and Hamilton's 15-year-long rival met its peak that year, when a duel was challenged. It commenced on the 11th of July, and the two met in the New Jersey woods, firearms in hand. Hamilton subsequently found himself fatally wounded in the abdomen, and Aaron was now a wanted man. When he learned of the charges placed against him, the former vice president fled to South Carolina, where he could be with his daughter. At this time, Theodosia was suffering from her own problems following the birth of her son 2 years prior. It was a difficult delivery from which she wouldn't fully recover. In South Carolina, Aaron was looking for ways to escape the law, and by the end of 1806 he was arrested. Despite her ill health, the man's daughter traveled out to her father's trial, and he was acquitted in 1807. Even so, he still became the target of the public's outrage and dragged his daughter down with him, tarnishing her reputation in the process. 1 year later, he fled to Europe, and over the following years, Theodosia campaigned for her father to be allowed back into the United States. Finally, in 1812, he was allowed back into the country and settled in New York. Unfortunately, around that time, the woman had lost her child to malarial fever, something that she couldn't cope with, and she decided to set sail for New York to be with her father during the trying times they were both experiencing. Her husband had just been elected as governor, so he was unable to accompany her. Fearing for his daughter's safety, Aaron made it so that Dr. Timothy Green went with Theodosia to New York. On the 31st of December of that year, they boarded a small schooner named the Patriot. It set sail from Georgetown into the open sea, and then it disappeared. Initially, Aaron and Theodosia's husband, Joseph, held on to the hope that the 29-year-old would turn up, but when February of the following year rolled around, Joseph gave up. 3 years later, he would pass away, but the father of the missing woman lingered for another 23. He was forced to endure the tales and theories surrounding Theodosia's mysterious disappearance. In 1820, the New York Advertiser revealed a confession by 2 pirates. They claimed to have taken over the boat, but some of the details that were recounted needed to be more consistent. One of their claims was that the weather had been calm for 3 days, but this was untrue.
They also claimed that the vessel had left from Charleston, but it had actually come from Georgetown. Another alleged confession came from Benjamin Burdick, who stated that he made the missing socialite walk the plank, but again, this confession's authenticity was placed on trial. Over time, stranger stories would emerge. One story finds itself attached to a grave belonging to a woman stranger. The lore surrounding it speaks of a man and woman who arrived in Alexandria in 1816. The woman was said to be ill, and neither of the individuals would answer to their identity. Later, the stranger succumbed to her ailment, and many believed that this was Theodosia and her male friend, Dr. Green. Others claim that she'd been held captive by pirates or was swallowed by the sea, where her ghost stalks the outer banks of Carolina in search of her father. Theodosia's choice of oceanic travel was unfortunate, since it was during the War of 1812. The British Navy would regularly stop American ships at sea to search for contraband. While there was nothing outright suspicious about the trip, the woman's husband still took the necessary precautions. He wrote a letter for her requesting safe passage should the British Navy stop her. Additionally, the North Carolina coast has been nicknamed the Atlantic's graveyard due to the dangers it harbors. Ships that are caught in storms are slammed on the shores of islands. Scavengers wandered the Carolina coast carrying lanterns to lure the captains ashore to steal the cargo. The mystery of Theodosia's disappearance would make a turn in 1869, when Dr. William Poole was treating a woman in Nag's Head. This woman spoke of a wrecked ship in 1812, in which her husband found the portrait of a woman. She then gave the portrait to Poole, who found it was unsigned. He also knew of the mystery of the Patriot and its passengers, and decided that the woman shared a resemblance to the missing socialite. He believed that she'd been taking it to her father as a gift. The painting remains unsigned, and the subject is unnamed at the Lewis Walpole Museum in Farmington. So if the Patriot had in fact sunk into the depths of the ocean, never to be seen again, how did this painting find its way to shore and survive the violent crash of waves? Number 7. Isaac Appel was born in 1905 and became a renowned Polish chess master in 1930. He won 6 times in the Łódź Championships and represented Łódź during the Polish team championships, winning 2 silver medals. Before the start of the Second World War, this chess master played in many Ukrainian tournaments. In 1926, he took 12th place at the Warsaw competition. In 1940, he took 11th place in the Soviet Union competition. Isaac had many more accomplishments between those 2 years, during which he represented Łódź in Poland throughout. This achievement gained him notoriety within the chess community. But then, on June 22, 1941, the man enigmatically vanished, and it was later believed that he found himself in a German camp. But this could never be confirmed. There was no trace of Isaac anywhere, leaving his official fate a mystery. Since the disappearance came during the Second World War and Germanic occupancy, his whereabouts will forever be shrouded in uncertainty. The story of the Polish chess master, Isaac Appel, remains an enduring mystery, his life lost to history. The suspicious vanishing didn't evade the eyes of historians, who continued to be confounded by the circumstances. Despite the efforts to trace the man's steps and to recover the remnants of his existence, nothing as to his whereabouts has ever been uncovered, leaving the mystery of his disappearance to endure. No concrete leads presented themselves in any historical records. The circumstances of Isaac Appel's vanishing remain suspicious and a source of intrigue, and so we're left with many theories regarding his whereabouts. Did he go into hiding amidst the chaos? Was he kidnapped or taken as a prisoner of war? Or perhaps he evaded the clutches of history, avoiding the tragedy of becoming one of the nameless victims of war? These are questions that we may never get answers to. Number 6. What would happen if Scarlett Johansson, Jennifer Lawrence, or Kim Kardashian went missing for 3 to 4 months without a trace? There would be seismic waves unleashed upon the United States, which is precisely what happened with Fan Bingbing, China's top actress who dominated the Chinese screens and headlines for 2 decades. Fan was born in 1981, and the aspiring actress began her career by starring in a television series called Princess Pearl. By 2006, with over 24 film and television roles on her resume, the actress released a pop album titled Just Begun. 1 year later, she started her own film and television studio, and in 2010, she ranked #1 among the 50 most beautiful women in China. She also won Best Actress at the Tokyo International Film Festival for her role in the 2010 Buddha Mountain. But it was when she took on the part of the mutant Blink in X-Men Days of Future Past that Fan would really gain mainstream exposure in the West. In 2018, though, the 37-year-old disappeared from the public eye, with the last reported sighting of her being in July when she visited the Children's Hospital. Fan was inactive on social media, and her public appearances were non-existent. She shared minute details of her life with her followers, and not doing this caused concern among family, fans, the community, and the world. Rumors ran rampant through China, stating that she'd fled the country. Others said that she was in prison or under house arrest for some wrongdoing. It turned out that Fan had actually been placed under scrutiny following a tax evasion scandal that year. This came after copies of a domestic film contract were leaked. The contract alleged that she reported to the tax authorities a salary of $1.5 million for 4 days of work, while another contract placed that number at $7.3 million. Fan's studio denied such wrongdoings, but the leaks continued to be amplified. Amid the scandal, though, the question remained, where is Fan Bingbing? Only a few people acknowledged the actress's birthday online, including a film director and minor celebrities. Her fiancé was among those who hadn't done this. The mystery only evolved when fans noticed a brief time that the woman was active online. Fan's supporters continued to stand beside her and attempted to get rid of the muddled allegations being made online. They published their investigations as they tried to discredit the groundless rumors that were in circulation. Luckily, this enigmatic vanishing was short-lived. In October of that same year, Fan re-emerged but suffered some mixed reactions from the public. Comments from used-to-be fans questioned how dare she come back and if they should pretend as though nothing happened. They also accused her of being a scandalous celebrity who shouldn't be awarded an audience or fame. That October, Fan was fined for tax evasion in order to pay 883 million yuan, equivalent to $129 million. Despite the allegation, Fan was never arrested. So where was she in her time out of the public eye? Number 5. Josiah Camp, better known as Jesse, was the first winner of the Wanna Be a VJ contest hosted by MTV in 1998. This contest challenged the musical knowledge and on-air personalities of its participants. Camp received $25,000 worth of cash as well as a 1-year VJ contract on Total Request Live. After this, Camp used this newfound fame to begin a rather short-lived rock musician career, where he produced a record called Jesse and the 8th Street Kids, a duet between himself and Stevie Nicks. In 2018, the 38-year-old mysteriously vanished, and his sister, Marisha, reported him missing after he failed to return phone calls and messages. She reported this to the Riverside Police Department in July after he was last spotted in Fontana, California. Following the report, police released a statement stating that the musician was possibly transient and that he was staying at the local motels. It was revealed that the family members who were always in contact with Camp hadn't heard from him for a week. It was learned that he'd been visiting the city of Riverside at the time of his disappearance. Camp was also known to wander the Inland Empire region. At the time, the officers did not suspect foul play, and there was little evidence at all regarding the man's whereabouts. They marked the case as suspicious and asked if anybody had any information regarding the missing musician, and if they did, that they should contact the local authorities. The disappearance was uncharacteristic of Camp, and the family was growing more and more concerned by the day. Then, just days later, they found him. Little is known about the circumstances surrounding the disappearance, but it was revealed that local authorities were able to track him down. Camp refused any assistance, but his family was notified of his whereabouts. Once he had re-emerged from his time away, the musician explained that he wasn't missing, but just went off the radar for a few days. He also reported that he didn't mean to kick up such a fuss, and that it was all the cause of bad communication. Camp was having issues with his phone, hence the unreturned phone calls and unresponded to messages.
In his statements and apologies, the man never clarified what happened to him, and made a couple of jokes here and there. He rumored the idea of being abducted by aliens, hit on the head with a coconut, or hiding in the Himalayas as a publicity stunt. He also revealed that he was in California, hoping to attend his friend, artist and designer, Ivy Supersonic's event, and that she would be holding it up in New York. While Jesse Camp was found unharmed and in good shape, nothing about the disappearance was clarified, and ever since then, the event has become just one of those odd things that some celebrities do, but never explain. Number 4. Ian Macintosh is one individual whose life is shrouded in mystery and intrigue. He was a British writer, screenwriter, former Royal Navy officer, and maybe an ex-spy, according to some. Macintosh wrote the 1970s British TV series called Warship, a show about life aboard the HMS Hero. It was written in cooperation with the Navy and was a popular show at the time. In the 70s, he also wrote the best spy TV series called The Sandbaggers. This show serves as a grimmer and more brutal version of the spy genre, the precise opposite of the James Bond franchise. On July 7, 1979, the experienced British Airways pilot Graham Barber rented a single-engine airplane, a Raleigh 235. After a quick flight test, he, his friend Macintosh, and Macintosh's significant other, Susan Insull, boarded the Raleigh 235 and headed for Kodiak. The weather was promising aside from solid winds in Kodiak. Around 5:45 that afternoon, Barber sent out a distress signal. At this point, he'd been flying in the northeastern area of Kodiak Island. Air traffic control relayed the signal to the U.S. Coast Guard, who had searched up in the air within 10 minutes over the last coordinates of the 235. But there was no sign of the aircraft, and for the next 3 days, searches would be carried out in an attempt to locate the passengers and the wreckage. Nothing was ever found, and soon controversy over the incident began to swirl around. Some believed that Ian Macintosh was a double agent, a spy working for the Russians amidst the Cold War. They wondered if he'd set up his disappearance to flee to the Soviet Union. Others suggested that his British spy double life was exposed, and that he was hiding from the KGB or a different organization like Black September. It was questioned whether or not the disappearance was faked so that the three could make their escape. Did the passengers meet an ill fate, or did the plane gracefully land in a foreign place? The missing writer's brother, Laurie, later gave an interview regarding his sibling. He explained that Ian would never be disloyal, and that he could have gone underground. This assumption came after the last time the brothers spoke. Laurie got the impression that this would be the last time he saw his sibling. Adding some more intrigue to this odd mystery was the aircraft that Barber rented. The Raleigh 235 has no doors, but instead makes use of a canopy. If the plane had become submerged in the water, and the right side was up, the passengers would have been able to slide the canopy open and exit the plane. This kind of aircraft has been referred to as a tin parachute due to its slow, controlled flight capabilities. Capabilities that it would have even without power. The Anchorage pilot who assisted Barber in the 235 during the test flights also reported something unusual. During the familiarization, he requested to try power-off stall practices. Laurie also found the choice of aircraft a bit off, recalling the times that his brother had told him how dangerous flying in Alaskan airspace could be, and that he would never fly anything there other than a twin engine. There's some conflicting information regarding the condition of the sea that day, and one report states that there was around 40 feet of water in the area. This makes Barber's theory of landing the plane on the water a little bit impossible. The air traffic controller at the Kodiak airport, though, stated that landing on the ocean that evening would have been safe, but none of this information could explain where the plane and its passengers ended up. And the question remains, did Barber, Insull, and Macintosh go into hiding? Number 3. Richard John Bingham, 7th Earl of Lucan, met Veronica Duncan at a golfing function in 1963, and before the year was up, they were betrothed. It was a relationship ripped straight out of a romance novel, and the two inherited the title, Lord and Lady Lucan. Lord Lucan was dashing and was considered to play the role of 007 in one of the James Bond films. The lady, she was a fantastic beauty and former model. It didn't take long, though, for the high-end lifestyle to begin to crack,
when the Lord discovered his love for gambling. He'd won what was supposed to be a friendly game at the Claremont Club, quit his job as a banker, and dedicated his life to full-time gambling. Many nights he would drag Veronica along with him, where she would be made to watch from the widow's bench as her husband rolled the dice time and time again. He was then awarded the name Lucky Lucan due to his success in the gambling light, but this didn't last long as his debts began to mount. The lady was struggling herself as well. Following the births of her 3 children, she was struck with postnatal depression. In 1973, the sad day came when Lucan packed up his things, vacated the family residence, and rented an apartment nearby. The fear of losing his children loomed over him, and that fear came the following year during a bitter custody battle. A battle that commenced with the winning round of Lord Lucan's accusations of mental instability of his ex-wife. A battle that ended when Veronica asserted what her husband was getting up to. She pointed at the gambling, the gaslighting, and the alleged abuse. These were words that the judge and Metropolitan Police accepted without doubt. The man was desperate to get his family back, only making his gambling issue far worse. Veronica had recently hired a new nanny, 29-year-old Sandra Rivet, tasked with looking after the children. One fateful evening, the house on Lower Belgrave Street would be entrapped by an unfortunate event. Rivet had gone down to the basement kitchen but didn't come back. Concerned, Lady Lucan headed down to investigate, but was struck upon the head with a blunt object. She stumbled out of the house to a nearby pub, claiming to have just escaped an attempted homicide. Lord Lucan was the immediate suspect, but he was nowhere to be found. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that the man had fled out of London towards Sussex and Susan Maxwell Scott's home, and that would be the last time that the man was ever seen, aside from the numerous unconfirmed sightings. In letters, he proclaimed his innocence, detailing a traumatic night when he walked past his old home and witnessed an assault through the window. An unknown assailant carried out the attack, and Lord Lucan began looking for help. An investigation and search for the man ensued, and the next day his car was discovered at New Haven at the South Coast Port, a less regulated area where the suspect may have caught a ferry. Vital fluid soaked into the upholstery, and a blunt object was discovered in the bag. He was the prime suspect, and no authorities could apprehend the man. He was gone. Many theories arose to try to explain what became of the well-known gambling Lord Lucan. They went from succumbing to the waters of the Channel to being fed to a tiger at the local zoo. Many were convinced that he ended up on foreign shores, with close to 100 sightings being reported from Ireland to New Zealand. None of these sightings could ever be confirmed, and the man remained missing. In the past 50 years, various sightings all over the world have been reported, but to no avail. According to one article, he was allegedly tracked down in 2003 in India, but the man they identified was a folk singer from St. Helens, Mike Harding. Many other individuals were also accused of being Lord Lucan, none of which seemed to stick. Number 2. Bosch Yan was born in the year 1942. He was a well-known Dutch artist who dabbled in conceptualism and performance art, as well as photography. Many of his artworks were presented in the form of photographs and film. One of his most well-known installations was Please Don't Leave Me. He was born amidst the drama of the Second World War to a minister father who allowed the sanctuary to be found within the family home in the countryside along the German border. But the family and victims couldn't hide for long before the opposing forces found them, sparking the long-lasting trauma that Bosch Yan would keep locked up in his mind and expressed through his work. Some years later, the artist was attending the Otis Art Institute, where he wooed Mary Sue Anderson by lifting his shirt and proclaiming the beauty of his belly button. By 1965, they were married. Bosch Yan's 70s artwork would become important later on in his story. One of his first films at this time was a black and white movie called Fall 1, in which the artist sat upon a roof before leaning forward and toppling over, taking his chair with him. That same year, he brought out a second film called Fall 2, this time plunging a bicycle into a canal, a project that would later prove ominous. 1 year later, another film called Broken Fall was produced, a film that would clearly show the man's interest in relinquishing control at the expense of his safety. In July of 1975, the ominous aspect came as part of yet another art piece. Bosch Yan boarded a small 13-foot sailboat named Ocean Wave, proclaiming that he would journey from Massachusetts across the Atlantic Ocean. Prior to his departure, the artist planned a performance of sea shanties at the Clare Copley Gallery and another at a museum in Holland where he was intended to arrive. Despite being an experienced sailor, the artist would not return from this trip, and he enigmatically disappeared while out at sea. In April of 1976, almost a year later, a Spanish fishing crew discovered the ocean wave abandoned off the Irish coast. But Bosch Yan was nowhere to be found, and was said to have disappeared at sea. But the mysterious circumstances surrounding his disappearance didn't come without suspicion. Some speculated that the man never succumbed to the violence of the water, but started a new life using an alternate identity. He never returned, and given his obsession with presence and absence, there are a number of possibilities as to where he could have ended up. No one ever figured out what happened to the aspiring artist. All that's known is that he placed himself at the mercy of the ocean, out of the public eye. He was the artist alone, struggling and adrift. A display perhaps inspired by his early trauma of falling and then vanishing. Number 1. The porcelain skin and red hair that wraps around Princess Lala Salma certainly fit the characteristics of your average fairy tale. And that's precisely how this woman's life turned out. The princess was raised by her grandmother and graduated from university after completing her computer and science course. Following this achievement, she began working at Morocco's most prominent private holding company, the ONA Group, a company controlled by the Moroccan royal family. It was in 1999 that Salma would meet King Mohammed VI, and the modern fairy tale began. Starting as just an ordinary woman, would turn into a Moroccan princess in 2002, when the two commemorated their synonymous engagement. Mohammed refused a second wife or a harem and wanted nothing more than Salma at his side. The relationship that these two individuals were engaged in sparked new hopes for the North African community, and they were viewed as a model couple, which now seems like ancient history. Princess Lala Salma was dubbed the Ghost Princess following her sudden disappearance and subsequent elusiveness. It began in 2017 when the woman vanished from the public view, a situation that the Moroccan media were reluctant to report on. But by the following year, the media could no longer ignore the obviousness of Salma's absence. It was that year that the king ended up in a hospital in France, where the royal family visited him. But there was someone missing from the picture. A magazine reported on a supposed divorce between the couple, but the Moroccan royal palace neither confirmed nor denied such an assumption. This allegation comes from the lack of official royal engagements involving both parties. Discussions about his family in the press are considered taboo, which is why no media outlets question the woman's disappearance or her whereabouts. But theories do make their appearances. Some believe that she resides in Rabat now, or that she's living in exile in the United States or Greece, but none such theories have been confirmed. Rumors sparked about her passing as well, but they were proven untrue when the woman was reportedly seen visiting the Beni Mellal Oncology Center back in 2019. It was also around this time that the elusiveness of the princess was brought to the forefront, following the event in which King Felipe and Queen Letizia undertook a visit to the area. Ever since the visit, sightings of our ghostly princess have been sparse. The attorney of the king and princess also denied the allegations made of the woman fleeing the country. Princess Lala Salma had been a frequent presence in the royal scene for some time. In 2011, she attended the wedding between the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, as well as various other royal engagements. Her sudden elusiveness is nothing short of strange and alarming. For over 2 years, her location found itself as the topic of debate, even with foreign diplomats being left in the dark about the situation. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.